This is Stephanie with Hightower Stitching with today's video, which is creating projects using hand or machine stitched half square triangles. And what I'm going to do is I was going to make a block. Well, this is the first one that I finished with my materials, and I always seem to be a little bit behind when it comes to the holidays. And so when I got ready to look at this and I found it in the magazine, I said, I'm going to go with some green and red colors and then the cream background and see what I come up with. And this is, I already got it on the wall hanging, and before I had it on as a table topper, and then I had put it also on a dresser top that it would fit on. And this piece is 16 inches by 48 inches roughly. And today what I want to do is talk about choosing your fabrics, making your half square triangles, and then creating the block. I have a very current magazine that I used. I used the American Patchwork by Better Homes and Gardens. It's the 2020 November-December, page 42, and they did a quilt in addition to the runner. So if you wanted to make a quilt, you could find more information about that on there. But this is a great square. And as I was looking at it, I keep thinking about things that are for people that are starting to quilt. What would help with sewing? And so I found that this one is really nice because I used to cut triangles out and then sew them back together. And even though you don't do all that cutting, because you do all that sewing to put the squares together and then cut them apart, you're really still doing traditional sewing. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is think about the fabrics that go into this. And you could use a solid color all the way through. They use batiks, which have a lot of different blends in them. And I thought, well, I'm going to use my reds and greens and have a runner for near the holiday. But the one thing I noticed is the pattern calls for 4 7/8 inch squares. And I said, that's awfully close to a 5-inch. And I have some packages of 5-inch charm squares that I haven't used and haven't had a project for. So sure enough, there was the holiday set, and I chose those. And I could have picked from any of them because they give you a lot of variety. And what I decided when I show you the pile that I have, that I tried to find 12 different patterns, and then I got 5 more and did 1 or 2 of those so that I'd have a lot more variety, because it's going to take 16 squares to put together to make your big block. So once you pick what your colors are going to be, the way you want to go, you want to match it up to a light, because half of your square is going to be light. And in this case, I found a really nice light coffee material, and that's what I used in that holiday runner. And you're going to need that, and you're going to, we'll do the number in a minute. And then as you're going, you may already have an idea for the backing you want. It's not really a very big piece of fabric, and that's nice, but you may find something that will go with the materials that you're using already. The way I started was I picked out 24 colors and combinations of colors, because I was going to make 3 blocks. You have to decide whether you're just going to make 1 block and make it for a hanging for the wall or a tabletop, or 2 or 3, depending how big you want it to be. And then I did have to cut my lights, and I cut 24 5-inch lights, because I'm going to match a light up to a print. So the next step is going to be going ahead and making your half square triangles. And the first thing that you need to do is take your light fabric that's going to be half of your triangle. And you may have done this before, you may not have. And there's a couple ways to do it, and I was going to show you those. One is to take and draw a diagonal line from one corner to the other and draw a line. And I'm using a mechanical pencil. That works really good because your line's not thick. And then come out, and if you're using a ruler, measure out 1/4 of an inch on each side and draw this new line. That's going to be your stitching line. The line you made in the middle is going to be your cutting line. The other way that you can do it is you can purchase a ruler, and this is kind of fun, and it sits right there. I just line it up from corner to corner and go with my pencil, go down and make a line. Now mine's very dark because I wanted you to see it. You wouldn't make one that dark. And if you're pretty good about cutting down the middle, you don't have to put that middle line down in there, and you could just cut it. And one day I was playing with my templates for someone, template materials, and I went ahead and I made one that I could use because I didn't have that other one yet that was a little bit thicker, and it worked. That worked well. So you draw your 2 or 3 diagonal lines, and I'm going to show you how to sew that in just a minute. You're going to make all of your squares at one time. You're going to go through till you have your 24 or your 30, however many that you decide to go with. And then at that point, you're going to take and decide whether you're going to do 1, 2, or 3 blocks like we talked. But each block will have 16 of those half square triangles. So for this next one that I'm going to do, I've already got a lot of these ready because I wanted you to see what fun you can have putting them into their places. But you can see this one has got some green with some yellow and then some rust. And these came out of a packet. But you can see that 1/2 of each of the squares has got that light color added to it. And I found that I like to open the when I get ready to iron it, open up the seam. You got to be real careful though, because that creates a bias line, and you can distort it by ironing it too hard. Just press, put your iron down, pick your iron up, and then put your iron down. That was an important thing. All right, now we're ready to start for the fun part. Well, one of the fun parts. And I'm going to take, and I'm going to have the right sides laying together. And then if you look, you'll see that I had, in this one, I had drawn the line down the middle because sometimes it's not worth the trouble of worrying about being straight. And then you can see that I have stitched on both sides with hand stitching. And I wanted to show you 2 different ways to attack those lines that go down through there. And here's the first one. And you can see my knots are in the middle. And I call that 1/2 at a time. 1/2 at a time is you take your material. Now once you get your right sides together, go ahead and pin them in place, because I find that this material wanted to slide on me, and most material will. Okay, I've got my thread and I've got it knotted, and I'm only going to use a single thread because this is pretty strong, and I'm going to use dark thread. And the nice thing is this was dark material, and so I could use dark thread and it won't matter. And as a matter of fact, when I got to the green part and over there, I had green in the machine, and I just kept it in there and went. So I'm going to go, but I'm going to start right in the middle. This is to be able to hang on to it and get the fabric to do what you want it to do in your stitching. And I'm going to do a back one time right there, because this is really fine thread, and my knot, I don't want my knot to come out. Okay, now I'm just going to hold this in my left hand, and my hand's underneath it. I'm going to take a needle, and you know, we've talked about this before. You're going to start sewing, and you'll audition some needles until you find the one that you really like. And you're going to be going down and up, and you can see this one's got a pretty stout the shank on that needle, so that I can really work it, and I'm working through the camera, I tell you that all the time, and that's why I wanted to show you the other one that I did. But now I'm going to pull it. You might get only 2 stitches on your needle. It doesn't matter. That's not the trick. The trick is to work at making nice stitches all the way across. And so what I would do is I'm going to go all the way down to the end, and then I'm going to back track, or I'm going to do a back stitch right there to hold it. I've got him stuck. Pull him out for a minute. So let's go all the way down there. I couldn't believe what fun this was and how much fun it was to sit and sew these, because there's no turning corners. You can make the prettiest little stitches, and you can always look at your back and see if your stitches are going through to the back too. And the other thing is you can take a look at it and make sure that you've got it, that you don't have big holes between your stitches. And I'm going to go all the way down here to the end. Okay. And then I'm going to go back. And I'll probably go back twice, just to make sure it locks up good. All right, and cut it off. Now what I want to do is knot up again. And again, I want to start right here at the center. I want to do those neat stitches down to the end, back stitch a couple of times, cut off, and then rotate it. And then do the same thing. Start there at the middle and go out, and then start here at the bottom. It makes it really easy to hold it first if you're just getting started. Or when I started it, I just did that also, no matter how many stitches I've done. All right, and then finally you say, well, I'm tired of knotting, and I think I'll do it a different way. And so if you look, I only have one place where my knot is, and then I've got back stitching over here. And it's really has to do with the way you're going to hold it when you start, because you can fight it, but if you just sort of nudge it together, sort of a gentle little gather, and if your pin's getting away, you can move those a little bit till you have it sort of bundled, okay? So just a little bit, there's no ironing to it or anything, and you just go across there, and then you start, and the part that takes you a minute, and that's why I had started out doing front halves and halves, is to start here again, and this time you're going to take and you're going to do your stitches, and you're going to load that needle. Now I've got a different needle, which is a very fine needle, so I can get really little, and I can actually use that bunching to help me move some of that. But the main thing is that you want some good stitches. So if you can only get 2 good stitches on your needle, then don't worry about it. And then you keep going all the way across. Okay, once you get all the way across on both sides, you're going to have both of those lines. You can see here where I used a light color and when I went across. Now, I tell you some things. One is when you get both of those lines, you can, and you say you've got a whole collection of them because you took them with you when you went somewhere, the dentist or doctor or something. And so you might want to just take and press these, and there again, just lay the iron down, pick it up, lay it down, pick it up, help to set those, but you don't have to. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to do your diagonal cut. Let me get a better scissor. Oh, sorry about that. That's not worth redoing, but here we go. My scissors, and I'm going to cut between. Okay. Now the one thing that helped me was once I got that cut, then I went back and I'm going to cut these little points off on where my stitching is. And if you'll look, I put my scissor towards there and then go towards the end of your stitch, and then you go down and you do the same thing with the other one. You're going to take, and this time you're going to go from the end and then do in, and that's going to save you later when you get ready to sew again, because you've cut off what I call little ears. And then we're ready for the magic to see our half triangles, and they're just gorgeous. Now this creates a bias through here, which means it's very stretchy. You want to be careful with that. I wasn't quite as careful as I should have been on the first one. That was one of my learning things. And so you want to take I'm going to open mine. Now if you decide you already know that you like to press to one side, press towards your dark fabric. But in this case, I just take and open it and then just touch it all the way down, sort of finger press it. And I make that pile and I leave it together, just sitting in a pile till I get ready to go and do all my pressing at one time. I can't quite get it open, but there you go. But whatever you do, don't be pulling on it like this. You know, my tendency was to take and put my finger here and then pull it down. Well, what that does, it helps to pull those threads out of alignment. So then all of a sudden you'll have this great square, and they all turn out just like that. And here we're looking at the square. When the 3 squares are put together, I ended up with a runner that was 16 1/4 by 48 1/4. That helps you figure out your back material. My surprise back material happens to be very busy. And it was great because I like that being so colorful. So let's say we're going to start and we're going to follow the pattern. Well, the first thing you notice is that each corner has got a box. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pick up, and the corner is the color is up. So I'm going to put that one in that corner, and I'm just going to randomly pick. And then the other corner is going to be the same. It's going to have the color going out. And I've got them divided in colors and I know that there's 4 of all of the first 2 rows, and then the other rows only have 2. So I can sort of gauge that between 3 blocks that I want to do. That's what I'd be doing. And so then I don't have to adjust everything. Then I'm going to put the other one going out. And let's see, I don't want it to be there. I already make some changes. And then this is going to be funny, I don't know how the dark is going to work. So I'm going to put him outside as a corner. So now I've got the corner ready. There are 2 blocks that go in there. And then this is the bottom row. And there are 2 blocks that go in here. And let's look at the top row. You can see that you're going to have a point in the top row. So let's pick something that we like. So now we've got the first row put together, and then both of all 4 sides will have that same point repeated. And as I was adding those pieces, I had to keep backing away from the table so that you could see those are those 4. And now think about how would the inside have to be so that you would have a white center. And because of the way I've turned those squares, you can see that I've now put the light color in the middle, and we have formed one of the first blocks. And you can look at it, and you may not like it is right now. You may set out the other ones. If this is the only one you're doing, it won't matter. Then I want to tell you, though, that the thing is, once you start sewing them together, that's when you really start to see the quilt coming together. And I have some more shapes that I was just using for your demonstrations, and I'm going to add those to give me more colors that I can use. And then what you would do is you're going to go across the first row at the top, and you're going to sew these 4 together. Watch your orientation when you get ready. And then you're going to do the second row. And then I generally will sew all my rows going across first. and set them down to make sure I've got them in the right place and press them open. And then I take and I sew the first row to the second row, and then add the next row and the next row. And on this one I would do that instead of 2 and 2, so that I would make sure that the orientation was right, because you don't want to have to take that out after you've stitched it so well. I feel like that was pretty quick, but that's about how quick this project is. And then when you get it sewed together, and if you decide to put batting behind it, some people, when it's a table topper, just take and make it like a pillow and fold it inside out and don't worry about putting batting inside. But I was going to do this because I didn't know if it would go on the wall or how I was going to use it. Plus, I like to protect my table. So I had my batting and my backing. And at first, I went around and I just did some top stitching with my walking foot, your regular foot. And then I had that big block in the middle. And I went in and just did some curly zeros or circles around on there, and did it. And so I hope you like that. It's really fun. It's really worth doing. And if you're a beginning sewer, it's a great way to practice your sewing and then also learn how to do those half square triangles. This is Stephanie at Hightower Stitching. If you enjoyed this, please hit subscribe and like. And I love if you leave comments. Those are always helpful to everyone else too. And thank you for watching. And one last thought. Any of the dimensions or anything that I may have forgotten that you might find helpful, I will put in the description. Thank you.